This is the final video about what if analysis, and this time we're going to talk about the scenario manager, a little bit similar to a data table in that you can have multiple variables and you want to see the effect on a final result, and the final result can be several different things also. One difference than the data table is that we can save these as scenarios and then present them in a scenario summary page. So let's take a look. Under data, what if analysis, here's your scenario manager. I got to uncheck or click off the text box. Let's try that again. Scenario manager. And basically you can have multiple scenarios. Very often when you're generating a business plan, you may have a best case scenario, a worst case scenario, and a most likely scenario. 3 different scenarios. So we're going to go ahead and add a scenario to our cycle production example. Let's call this one our best case scenario. And it says, well, what cells do you want to change in this best case scenario? And again, this is going to have to be things that are values. They can't be formulas. And so, for instance, I may want to change the number of units sold, the price that we get for those units. How about the material cost per unit? And just for fun, let's go ahead, salaries and benefits. This is our best case scenario. We're going to change these 4 values. So I hit OK, and it goes, what do you want the values to be in the best case? All right, we're going to produce 4,000. And because things are going so well, we're charging $1,500 per unit. And the material cost per unit, I think we can get that down to $700. And our salary and wages, we're going to lay some people off, and so we'll be at $600,000. So we're producing a lot, selling them for a bunch, reducing our material cost and our labor. So that is one scenario. We can either hit OK or we can add another one. So it goes, what's this name? Oh, this is our worst case scenario. It's the changing cells stay the same, but then when you hit OK, it says, okay, well, what is the scenario? We only produce 2,500 units. We can only sell them for 1,200. Our material costs actually shoot up to 780, and our wages jump up to 625,000. So that is our worst case scenario. I'm going to hit OK. If you want to add another scenario, you can. You can edit the scenario you already have. You hit OK, and up comes the numbers. Or you can be done. And so we have saved these 2. I'll talk about the summary in a second. But you can just hit close, and all of that information is being retained. So now I can go back into what if scenario manager, and there they are. One thing you can do is just show your best case scenario, and it'll put those values into your model. So there's my 4,000, 1,500 is what we're selling them for. We get our unit cost down and our salaries are down. Net income shoots up to 1 million. If we don't want to keep those results, I can hit close and Control Z, and it puts us back to our original values. But the other thing we can do in our scenario, what if scenario manager, is to create a summary of all of our scenarios. In this case, I only have 2. So I hit summary, and then it asks, well, we're going to do a scenario summary. What are the result cells? What are the things that we want to watch change based on this scenario or these scenarios? For some reason, it always grabs the values out of the data table, which is not what we want. I want to watch these values. I want to see what happens to my total revenue, my total expenses, and my net income with these scenarios that we created. So when I hit OK, it's going to put it on its own sheet. So here we go. It's working. And now we have this sheet showing the result. Here's our current values. Here is our best case scenario. And here is our worst case scenario. Now, one of the problems with doing a scenario summary is if you haven't named your ranges at first, these references don't mean much. What is B5? What's B6? What's B25, 26, or 27? So I always recommend before you do your scenario summary, I run through like this, and I do the named ranges from selection, create from selection. The names are in the left column. I hit OK. Replace existing, yes. Oh, maybe because there's 2 total revenues. We'll see what happens here. So all of these cells are named. If you look up here in the name box, which one's total revenue? So this one is, what did they do for this one? Nope, that's just B7. That's okay. We're good with that. So now watch what happens when we create the scenario summary. Again, what if scenario manager, let's go with the summary. It's saying, hey, what are my result cells? This time it's grabbing the right stuff because we've already done it once. So we'll hit OK and we'll create another scenario summary sheet. And notice this time instead of B5, 6, and 7, or whatever the numbers happen to be, it actually puts the words here, and then your scenario summary chart makes more sense for your user. In our best case scenario, we could have a net income of $1,220,000. In our worst case scenario, we're losing money. And of course, you can have more than 2 scenarios. You can have 3 or 4 different scenarios. So that's how scenario summary works, fairly easy to use. And again, you could do the same thing here with your car loan example. We could go to scenario manager, add the best case scenario is we find a cheap car at a low interest rate for a long loan or whatever. And then when we do our scenario summary, we could take a look at the payment, the total to repay, the total interest paid, and create that as a summary. Again, before you do, you may want to name your ranges with that create from selection so that your scenario summary result will have some meaningful names here in the summary page.